Good afternoon, guys. The idea of manifesting is something which is spoken about a lot in today's culture, in the culture of doing well for yourself, in the culture of ambition. There's been a lot of times in my life where I've done manifesting, tried manifesting, and I think as a concept it can work. I really don't believe that there's any potential of getting anywhere if you don't believe it can happen. And when you actually think that it can, when you sort of manifest it about, it's not like the universe brings it about, in my opinion. It's more like you make decisions which influence the likelihood of certain outcomes. So, if you believe you can do something, and you're manifesting it, let's say, it's like you'll be more willing to chase it and take that risk because you think it's the path that you're destined to be on. Anyway, whilst I do believe in the concept, I think that there is definitely a harmful element to the concept of manifesting a lot of stuff. And I think when we do this too much, we get into a position where, well, we miss out on the very glory of life. Most of you guys will know that I almost always film these videos when I'm either in the car or out on a ride on the bike, and that's what I'm doing today. Now, whilst we are by the river, there is still a lot going on in this area, but when you're in a quiet location and you take a minute to think, or when you're just like riding a bike or having a walk and you just think, sometimes it's actually important, very important, to reflect on the past. Obviously the past is why you are where you are. And I was having a very deep thought on the way down here. I think I've been in like a period of deep thought for a while recently because I'm having a lot of thoughts about a lot of things, but you have a little reflection about the things that you've done and the people that you've known and the people that you don't see anymore, perhaps because you just don't see them. You might have fallen out, you might have just lost contact, and obviously the people who may not be with us anymore. The things that you just can't do anymore that are from a time gone by. And it might sound like I'm going on that old sentimental rant, but I'm not. This brought up a really important point in my head, something that I've realised for a while, but actually sitting there and pondering it made for an interesting video topic. Because going back to the concept of manifestation and, you know, the hustle, the grind, I've been the guy before who has been, you know, always focused on it. I was out with friends and family and I was, you know, out of it on my phone, obviously making money, so I'm not gonna act like I wasn't doing something productive, but at the same time, you look back at the things that you can't do anymore and how much more you wish you engaged with people who, again, potentially just don't exist anymore or you don't hang out with anymore. How your focus on the future may have taken away from the present, and also how it may have influenced your future in ways that weren't so positive. So bringing this round to the topic for today's video, here's my point, right? I do believe that you need to believe to get there. If you don't believe, I don't think you're going to achieve. I don't think you're going to make it. At the same time, I think a lot of people are so focused on the future and achieving their goals that they miss out on the very joys of life. You know, earlier in the month, after seeing the income figures that I had seen from my own businesses, I saw, not necessarily that I will do it, not necessarily that it even makes sense, but I saw the potential that I could now be living, or in the future could in theory be living, a very, very decent life, be that in the UK, but in somewhere like Manchester or London, or even somewhere else in the world, right? And whilst that might sound like the dream, and in some ways it might be, it brought one thing up. Because it's one thing to dream about this, but when you actually see the potential of it happening right before your eyes, you think a bit differently. It reminded me of why the present was so important. It reminded me of, whilst I spent so much time wishing that I could, you know, go on these adventures and live a certain lifestyle, and whilst that is the ultimate goal, I realised that there really was something very valuable in all of the silly little, stupid, weird things about my city, the people that I know, the people that I hang around with, people that I've met, all the things that I'd miss. Does that mean that you shouldn't follow your ambitions? No, it doesn't. You absolutely should. But at the same time, here's the thing. Right now, the time is 2:15 on Monday the 11th of November, 2024. The minute that I just spoke about, that 60-second period, is never coming back. Right? And there will never be a time again where at 2:15 on the 11th of November, I am sat in this very spot in 2024. That time is gone. And here's the thing, people take it for granted. Perhaps it's through death, perhaps it's through falling out of contact or anything the like. People that you know, not all of them will be there for the future. Whether they like it or not, not everyone will be there. There are people who you will never see again. Probably in the next year, right? You'll probably meet someone, get semi-close, and you may never see them again. A friendship or a relationship in your life may end in the next 12 months, right? And here's the thing, not everybody is going to be there when you make it. Not necessarily because they don't want to be, they just may not, it may just not be meant to be. And I don't say this to depress anybody, it's a depressing fact, but it's the truth, right? Your city will never look how it does today. It will look similar, or almost identical, but there'll be slight differences, right? You'll never be this young. You'll never know what you didn't know. And you'll never have the same level of ambition because situations change. Every single day is an influence. And yeah, maybe I am going down the more mental side of it, perhaps even the more spiritual side of it. But this is, I think, equally important, if not more important, because we spend so much time focusing on the hustle and bustle and forgetting what really matters. Forgetting what we can't get back. And failing to acknowledge what we need for a healthy life. You guys already know, I'm all about the grind. I'm all about trying to build as much money as you possibly can. But at the same time, there are things that money can't buy. There are things that you'll never see again. Experiences that only come once, and some of them aren't good. But some of the funniest times I have looking back, or have had, they've not always been the happiest. They've not always been the best. And there's a lot of times in my life that I would not go back to, even if you paid me. But does that mean that they didn't have value? No, they absolutely did. So what is my point here before I conclude this episode? Well, my point is this. We spend so much time focusing on this hustle culture, this grind culture, that we fail to see what the real value in life is. By taking a time to step back, we get a much more clear perspective of what we want. We get to value the time that we're living in. And we get to realise what the true meaning of life, I believe, really is. It's not all about money. It's not all about grinding. Sometimes it's just about enjoying. Not even necessarily even enjoying. But sometimes it's just about experiencing. When we're so caught up on the future, we often fail to experience the now. We're so focused on what comes next. And I think that's something that's really taken away from our modern world.